mass percentages for acetone peroxide. It's a compound of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And I'm asking you to figure out its empirical formula.
How do you make it?
It's actually pretty easy to make. It's also very easy to blow yourself up trying to make it. Okay, now when you're given percent, mass percent composition, and you want the empirical formula, you are essentially faced with the necessity of going from the mass, we assume 100 grams, to mole of whatever it is, carbon, hydrogen, or oxygen, to mole ratio, and then to the empirical formula. So let's look at that. It's percent, so let's take 100 grams. We can take anything we want, doesn't matter. Take 100 grams, it'll be a little bit easier, a little quicker. So 48.64 grams of carbon. We're going to do a mass to mole conversion. By now that should be pretty familiar to you. 1 mole of carbon, 12.01 grams of carbon. That gives 4.05 moles of carbon. We do the same thing for hydrogen, 8.16 grams of H times 1 mole of H, 1.008 grams of the same. That gives us 8.10 moles of H. Oxygen, 43.2 grams times 1 mole of O over 16 grams gives us 2.70 moles of O. So those are all the mass to mole conversions using the values of the atomic masses or molar masses from the periodic table. Okay, now at this point we can create a preliminary formula just based on the mole ratios. So we have carbon 4.05 moles, hydrogen 8.10 moles, oxygen 2.70 moles. And in order to get from these decimal fractions to integers, we're going to divide through by the smallest. And when we do that, we get carbon 1.5, hydrogen 3, oxygen 1. Now we can't leave it that way because 1.5 is not an integer or not a whole number. We need whole numbers here. So we have to figure out what's the smallest integer we can multiply by to make all of these subscripts integers, and that clearly is 2. So we're going to multiply this whole thing times 2, and we're going to get the empirical formula C3H6O2. Questions? Yes? Couldn't hear you. Where did I get the 2? This 2 right here? I could not leave the formula the way it was at C1.5. So I had to ask myself, what can I multiply this by to make it a whole number? And 2, I want the smallest thing that I can because I want the empirical formula and not some multiple of it. Was there another question? Yes.